It's Spoilerin time, gentle folks, dear friends, gentle hearts. And today we are going to spoil The Shield, Season 2, Episode 9, in which time travel, well, not really time travel, it's a flashback episode. Also, Episode 3 of The Leftovers, in which time travel, it's not really time travel, but it does have Chris Eccleston, and he looks a little like the Doctor at a couple of points. And Orange is the New Black, in which there are flashbacks, for sure. Brian Brushwood is here.
Hey, man. I'm ready to rock this thing. Let's do this.
Veronica Belmont is here as well. Are you ready to spoil?
Let's do it.
Let's spoil The New Black. Orange is the New Black. Veronica and I have watched the entire run. Brian, you're up to everything but the finale, correct?
I made it all the way to the very end. And
How
feel
could you
free to
not
spoil
finish
the
it at
finale
that
if you guys
point?
want to talk around it. I would say that I had previously mentioned that Piper has become my least interesting character of the show. Like, I care the least about her. And people are like, oh, well, then you're going to like where things go. And I've really enjoyed the side stories. Everyone's really interesting. I thought the return of Pornstache just to get arrested was pointless. It made no sense. It added nothing to the story. It reminded me the second he showed up, I'm like, why is this cartoon character on this show? Like, I want to believe, and I understand real prison is different, but I want to believe that I'm watching real prison. And the moment he shows up, I'm like, no, he's a cartoon character. And for that point, why are we even still looking at Jason Biggs's stupid face? Like, why is he in this at all? Like, they broke up. They broke up, and now it's like some dude. It's as though you're watching an action movie and Bruce Willis buys a Snickers bar from someone, and for some reason, the guy who he bought a Snickers bar from just keeps like showing up, like living his life, talking about his kids or whatever. Like, you have no bearing on the story whatsoever. You no longer belong here. Why am I following you or your stupid relationships?
Wait, but that's not true. I mean, yes, they technically broke up, but that's the whole point of this story, is that Piper still has feelings.
Okay, but
like you saw the funeral, right?
Yes, exactly.
So
that was the end. I don't understand why they showed Jason Biggs' face even for one frame after that. Unless something amazing
really
is important and says, yeah, he's off with his new girlfriend, talking about how like
his new girlfriend
is her best friend.
Okay, I mean, fine, whatever. Point is, I don't watch the show.
It's kind of like they're burning down Piper's life on the outside. You know, it's like it's almost going to be like prison is going to be the only place she knows after this point, because so much shit has gone down like on the outside that she can't go back to it anymore. She can only move forward.
I guess the scene that really stuck with me was when they're doing housekeeping, emotional housekeeping, where they're like, all right, so I guess we told Piper and now you've broken up with your husband. All right, I guess we're going to do this. And
you didn't want to see him get socked? I saw that coming a mile away, but
yeah, I mean, whatever. That was fine, but that's before. I'm talking about there was a scene after that. Like, they cleaned everything up, and then he just sat around talking about how, like, well, I guess we've done all the dirty work for that. I didn't understand that scene at all. But regardless, I will say that the second half of the whole series was much better than the first half. I will say it was not quite as good as season 1. I will say that the sooner Piper just goes away, the better. I will say I really enjoyed, is it Black Cindy who was the TSA agent?
Tasty? No, wait.
No. Tasty was like
right.
Lieutenant of Z.
Correct.
I think it was Black Cindy was a TSA agent, and to
that was
see
pretty funny.
Her, enjoying power both as a TSA agent and as a lieutenant to Z. I thought that was good. I'm enjoying all of it.
I'm not as down on Piper as you are, Brian. I think they've done exactly the right thing, which is you're starting to get tired of her. They bring her story down. They bring it down. But she is the unifying thread here that brought you into it. So I think it would be irresponsible to get rid of her story. And I think her story is interesting. Obviously, you don't, because you don't even care about like the whole love triangle, which is essential to her story. But I think I'm not
going to say I don't care. I'm just going to say, like, it doesn't do it for me like everything else does.
Aside from Piper, I think this is a less consistent season, but it had higher points. And I agree with you on Black Cindy. I agree. I think Tasty's backstory was fantastic, especially the little
Pussay's backstory, like somebody who's falling in love with that
Rosa's backstory kicked my ass because we got time travel. Actually, we went back to the 70s.
Yeah. wait, Rosa's
the cancer victim.
Yes. No, I agree. Like, to be honest, all that stuff was so good, and that's the reason I say, why are we bothering with Piper? You know, it's like I would watch this if it was just a patchwork quilt of individual Lost style vignettes of all this stuff.
Veronica.
I keep talking, you guys keep ignoring me, so I stopped talking.
No, we're not hearing you.
Sorry.
Come through. Apologies for that. So go ahead.
No, it's true. I mean, I really like the vignettes. I like the style that they've been doing this season. And that was something that we actually like anticipated coming into the next season. They kind of said they were going to focus on the backstories a lot more. I still like Piper, and I like the transition that Piper has gone through this season. I think she's really kind of grown up into herself and kind of taken ownership of the situation that she's in. And I like that metamorphosis that she's going through. So personally, I'm okay with Piper. She's not the most interesting character in the story, but I still like her being there as like the tie that binds the whole thing.
And it's her story. I mean, Piper Kerman's the consulting producer on this. Like,
yeah, all right, let's talk about that too. I don't know. It's just weird to know that kind of thing, to know that she has to be there because the creator, so she wrote a book and it was delightful and it inspired this amazing thing. My favorite parts are the parts that have nothing to do with Piper, but it will never happen that the show will not be about Piper. And that's fine. It's fine. It's great.
Doesn't sound fine. Doesn't sound fine, Brian.
Fine. It's like, I mean, to be honest, like I would, if I had a time machine and an alternate reality engine, I could watch the entire show with Poussey as the main character, or as Daya as the main character, or even Pornstache as the main character. And I feel like as long as they went to that,
now you're just being silly.
That as long as you got to experience that patchwork of amazing individual stories, I would be all in. Okay, but what about you? I mean, somebody else talk.
I think
Veronica keeps trying to, and we're not hearing her interrupt. Go ahead, V.
No, that's it. Yeah, that was all I had to say. I really enjoyed the season. I like I said, I don't think it was as good as the last season, but I'm still excited about the next one. I thought we saw Alex a lot more in this season than I expected to, given all the news that we had about her participation in the show, and it sounds like she'll be back on the next season too. So yeah, I'm still looking forward to it. And I've been reading Larry's articles. He just wrote one on Medium about the whole thing too, kind of giving his side and explaining what was real and what was kind of artistic license. And I thought that was interesting. And so someone in the chat room said you had him on NSFW?
Yeah, that's one of the things
so
I wanted to
cool.
share was that Justin found out that the guy we had like on the 4th episode of NSFW ever, we had 6-word memoirs was his project. And we did 6-word fail wars or whatever, but it turns out that we had the Jason Biggs character on our
Larry
stupid
Bloom.
show. That's amazing.
You had Larry.
Yeah.
So this was all that was before Orange. Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah. So like theoretically, when some vestige of what we're watching was happening in real time, like part of me wants there to be a moment on Orange is the New Black where he's trying to build up publicity for his book and he goes on a horseshit podcast with some cackling jackals.
I found out too that him and Piper, though they had known each other and met at summer camp years and years before, they were both teaching courses there. The first time they really got to know each other was when they were both living in Lower Haight, and they met in person after camp for the first time at a brunch place called Kate's Kitchen that was across the street from my first apartment in San Francisco.
No kidding.
And so it was very weird hearing about all the places they hung out and worked in and being like there, not at the same time, but pretty soon afterwards. I thought that was kind of cool.
My one regret on Orange is the New Black this season is that they made Red's character somewhat of a cartoon for a portion of the season. I felt like
which portion?
When she was losing to V and trying to look vulnerable, I understood why they were doing it, and I felt like they needed to do it, but it just didn't work for me. I don't know. I'm not faulting Kate Mulgrew's performance.
See, I would put Boo ahead of Red on the cartoon department. Like Boo,
I love Boo. Boo's like one of my favorite
Boo
characters.
became the Fantastic Four's thing. I mean, like that's
Boo I've met. I like know Boo. Like I get Boo, and I have seen people who do all of those things for those reasons. and obviously not in prison for those
Sure,
kind.
sure, sure,
I'm not
sure.
trying to say that, but like I'm like, oh yeah, I know a girl named Spike who's exactly like that and would do those things and has done those things, and they're inexplicable. Like I got her, even though it is a little bit cartoonish. I got her, but I felt like we'd been built up that Red was so strong, even in the flashbacks in the restaurant, that the way they showed her being vulnerable to V didn't quite mesh to me in certain scenes here and there.
Yeah, I don't know.
Oh, I really want you to watch the finale, Brian. So we can talk about the finale.
V.
I am. I mean, just
not Veronica.
You could spoil me. You could
Yvonne
spoil me.
V she makes an excellent villain, and what I loved that character because she is very manipulative in ways that fool me when I'm watching. So I'm like, oh, well, maybe she does have a good. Oh no, she doesn't.
No, I totally. Yeah, I was like, why are you guys buying this? Like, why are these characters like falling into these traps?
Yeah, you're like, okay, no, I'm never.
I did not buy it. Yeah.
But early on, I'm like, oh, okay, maybe they are really friends. Okay, maybe she does. Maybe she is going to be good to her inner. Oh no, it's not even being good to her inner circle. Like. I kept thinking there was going to be more depth, and it turns out, no, she's a psychopath.
I'll tell you what I did really buy into, and I didn't expect to as I watched it happen, but Crazy Eyes is militarization. Like once she's treated as somebody who treated as an intellectual equal, whether she is or not, you could tell like she is the most loyal dog ever, to V. I enjoyed watching that transformation.
Yeah. And yeah, Veronica, I'm with you. Like, I would like Brian to have seen the finale, and yet I hesitate to spoil it because the last scene.
No, yeah, don't spoil it. I don't think so.
Right.
No, Brian, just watch it.
You're gonna want to see unspoiled.
We'll talk about the very, very end later.
Finish him. Let's talk about The Leftovers, and we're gonna let Veronica go because she hasn't seen episode 3 yet. But before we do, Veronica, you had a very emotional reaction to us using the name The Leftovers in the main episode of Cordkillers.
What's going on here?
I'm just not jazzed on this show, guys. Like, I kind of wanted to be, and I just watched the first episode, and it was such a, like, everything was like, ugh. Like, I don't know how to describe it. Like, it was so hopeless. Like, I just don't want to watch a whole season of everything just being like, we're going to shoot the dogs, and then everything is going to be depressing and blah. I don't know. It wasn't for me.
Dog shooting was hard. I'm with you there.
Yeah, and it just seems like what I know about the book, I don't know if Lindelof is going to go the same route as the book ending, but I just don't feel like there's going to be a big payoff of any kind. I know it's not really supposed to be a big payoff kind of show, maybe, but I feel like there's not going to be any answers. I feel like it's just going to be very depressing, and there's enough depressing stuff on TV. I just don't need it.
You're getting old, Veronica. Oh, there's so much depressing stuff in the world. Why would I want to waste my time on a depressing story?
All right. Well, do you want to drop off before we start talking?
I'll drop off.
I don't know how much you care about having stuff spoiled.
Well, it goes into more of the characters, right? Like the next couple episodes.
Well, the second episode
was a lot like the first.
Is a lot like the first. You get a little more about the chief and his family, a little more about a couple other characters. And then the third episode is a study in Chris Eccleston's character. And
in that regard, at any point, hang up, by the way, when it starts to sound like a spoiler to you. I adored the third episode. It was light years ahead of the rest of the show. It was as you mentioned, a character study. I believed this guy. I believed his situation. I liked him and was repulsed by him at the same time. To be honest, it was like meeting the gentle grandfather that is Fred Phelps. Like, somebody who, on a personal level, you like and understand and who believes passionately in a thing, and yet does this thing that's distasteful and has this mission that's kind of hideous.
What's cool is that you already know from earlier episodes that he's a little off, right?
Yeah.
Like he's got this mission, he's got this campaign with the flyers and everything. And so they do this great little roller coaster where they bring you in and say, no, but he's got these redeeming
I'll let you guys
qualities.
talk about it. I'm going to go. I'll let you guys
talk. All right. Bye, Veronica.
Thanks, guys.
V.
Bye.
Now we could really spoil it. Okay, as you and I were talking about before,
He's got these redeeming qualities, and you go, okay, so maybe there's more to this guy, and there is. But then they start bringing you back, and like, oh, wait a minute. Now I'm back to understanding like he is crazy flyer guy, and I'm starting to see that. And now I understand that he is actually way off the deep end in certain ways, as far as having that reaction of anger. Like he's got some repressed anger back there, which is why he lashes out and kills the guy who takes the money. And then we start to figure out why, because he goes and visits his sister, and she starts to reveal like this is what's driving him in his past.
Right.
And then that final scene not only clinches like, oh, this is how all of it, the wreck and everything happened, but it crosses back over with the season premiere.
That was so great.
And all of a sudden you're like, I'm locked.
Yeah. No. It was the first episode that didn't feel like a broadcast television show. This felt more like
they wouldn't let you go that far into one character like that. I was 20 minutes in before I realized, oh wait, we haven't gone anywhere else.
Right, and this is just this one guy's story. How great was the ridiculous gambling away the money scene? Like so many wins. Like he was going to win the first time, and you assume he's going to win the second time, and then you get to that third beat, and you're like, well, this is when historically it feels like he should realize he just gambled away $20,000, but instead, in that slow motion. What's that?
He had 3 pigeons.
Oh, was that the whole thing?
Yeah.
Oh,
that was the whole reason he went there, is that he saw the pigeons land on the table, and he'd seen the pigeons before. And that's what made him go, wait a minute. The pigeons are trying to tell me what to do.
Man, I missed that.
And so I'm like,
dumb.
well, yeah. And I was doing the math. I was like, there were 3 pigeons, so he's going to let it ride 3 times. And I'm like, yep, that's going to be enough.
Now, okay, explain to me.
Although, frankly, mathematically speaking, he could have pulled out his original, whatever it was, stake. And still gambled and had enough money to buy the church back.
But if you believe you're following a supernatural directive,
the pigeons would not have been happy with that.
Exactly. You don't want to hedge your bets. Where did the money come from? Because he walks up and he says, so and so said that I could come get the thing.
It was a little unclear,
right?
It was the chief's dad, who they were friends with, and you get that when the chief comes over, he's like, why don't you come over like old times,
right?
And then you get that little flashback audio of like, whenever you need it, it's there for you. But we don't really know why it was there.
Right.
We just know that was the chief's dad's former chief money.
Right.
That was buried there for him.
But yeah,
maybe.
But he
did
feel comfortable. He didn't feel comfortable taking it, but he felt like it was to be used for a purpose.
Yeah.
So he used it as the stake to, he
and then
wins
put it
3
back.
times. Presumably.
Yeah.
I got to tell you.
Which I guess why you wouldn't pull the stake out, because then you wouldn't have enough to put it back.
I loved it. I loved this. It is the best of all the episodes. Man, you can hear a little bit of that English accent.
Oh yeah, we were talking about this before. Chris Eccleston definitely looked like the Doctor a couple of times when he smiled. That certain like blank face to smile transition is just, it's emblematically Chris Eccleston. And yeah, his accent wavered. You could tell these scenes were not shot in chronological order, because especially that casino, one of the casino scenes, he's like, whoa, he's still working on that accent. He hasn't nailed it yet.
Can I say weirdly that I was conflicted with the ending? Not so much. I was kind of cheering for that crazy white cult, the wearing white cult. Like, I was like, oh, look, you're legitimate now. You own a church. Like, I know we were supposed to be disappointed for crazy. That's the weird thing about this show.
I'm sorry. What is disappointing about that?
Well, I mean, it's disappointing because the entire plot of this vignette is Father Time Lord is trying to save his church, and he fails to do so.
Sure.
Somebody buys it from underneath him. So
and it turns out it's the white folks.
Yeah, the white brigade, right? And so
white people rich.
White people. and so it turns out that the white people got it. And I know I'm supposed to feel bad for Father the Doctor.
Oh, but you're happy that
But I'm kind of happy. I mean, that's the weird part, is that.
But there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, that doesn't change the story. That just makes it richer, I feel.
And that's the thing, is that everybody's flawed. There is no. I mean, the police chief is obviously very flawed and damaged and can't hold on to his wife. The white people cult is freaking crazy and insane. Father Time Lord is a drunk and running off gambling with other people's money that he stole. And then and Dr. Hugs a Lot is a crazy man as well. I mean, everybody's broken in this world, and yet that's exactly what you would expect when 2% of the population just vanishes, you know?
Yeah.
But that scene when he's in the car wreck and you see him look up and you see that girl screaming, Sam, Sam, Sam. I mean, it just took, like, that opening scene was so powerful that was a big moment to take it back.
Yeah, the fact that they had planned that interlocking, which they obviously had,
sure,
makes me have hope for the future. I know someone in the chat room pointed out that Damon Lindelof has said apparently there will not be answers. We're not setting you up that we know the answers. There will be questions that won't be answered. Just get used to it.
But that's
I'm fine with that going in. But I like the idea that there will be more interlocking things in the future that will unravel some more light on this mystery, even if I don't get all the answers. I want to see more stuff like that. What would be amazing, and I don't know if they'll do this, is if that opening scene starts building up to where maybe, because we got some new perspectives on it, right? We got Father Time Lord's perspective. Maybe there's something in the background there. Then in a future story, we'll flash back and realize, oh, and the person standing behind him there was that person.
And that's what we want. We don't necessarily, we think we want answers, but what we really want is the aha moment, which is not necessarily an answer.
Exactly.
And this is a case where you got no answer, but you got a very satisfying aha moment.
Which honestly is why, and I don't want to turn this into a discussion of Lost, but it's why I was satisfied with the ending of Lost.
You and I are satisfied.
All the characters got that aha moment for me, even if it didn't answer.
Wait, have we talked about this on the show? I think you and I are the only people who liked the ending of Lost. I liked it. I was totally fine with it.
I mean, I didn't love it. I wasn't like, at all, this is exactly what I had imagined. But I was satisfied when it was done. I was like, that felt like a good ending to Lost.
It did. I agree 100%.
I guess we never talked about that.
Wow, we didn't.
Because I'm so used to like getting hate for having that opinion from people like, oh, can you possibly like that? It was all a dream.
They promised that it wouldn't be whatever. Man, I don't know if I can.
I think we need a support group because Adam 12 is like, I loved the ending of Lost.
So does Gord McLeod.
Yeah, look at that.
I don't know if it's too spoilery to say, but it's like, I wonder if you and I loved the ending of Lost because we also liked the ending of The Dark Tower.
Maybe. Yeah. Or it's like, I'm sure if you can construct this intricate story that brings everything to an amazing close, that's great. But if you can construct an ending to a story that makes me like feel like I've said a fond goodbye to a character.
Oh yeah.
That's fine. That's fine. No, that is perfectly valid in my estimation.
Agreed. Okay. So anything else on this episode of? I'll tell you what. If every episode of The Leftovers from now on is like this, where I'm just following one vignette at a time, one character, I'll be all the way in.
I'll get tired if they do it every time. But yes, I will not be unhappy if I see more of that one character investigation. Yeah. Mix it up every once in a while.
Why not?
I mean, the second episode was essentially a chief episode.
I spent the whole time thinking, why did Christopher Eccleston leave the Doctor Who? Like, I mean, was this what he was hoping to get out of it, or?
I spent most of the episode thinking, like, why didn't that casino have better security? I mean, this guy won a lot of money, and you just let him walk out of the parking lot?
I thought the same thing. I thought like they would not hand you they don't hand you cash.
No,
they call in the gaming
just be
commission.
like, yeah, good luck in the parking lot, buddy.
Yeah.
That's a whole controversy about Chris Eccleston and Doctor Who.
What do you mean, like that he left so fast?
Well, the fact that he left is unknown exactly why. It is apparently some bad blood, possibly with executives at BBC, but it's not known for sure. And I've already probably said too many inaccuracies there compared to what's actually known. But there's tons of rumors about him being upset with that production.
What is the version I would hear, not from you, but from a random
well, that's the problem. There's tons of them. If you go to a bar with 5 Doctor Who fans, you're going to hear 5 different versions of what actually happened with Chris Eccleston.
Yeah.
But sort of the modal version, I guess, would be that he didn't want to get typecast.
Right.
He did not like the direction that the production was taking. Doesn't seem like it was necessarily with Ray Davies. Maybe it was. Some people think it was. Some people think it wasn't. But definitely the upper folks at BBC he was upset with. And he has said things like, if you're going to be treated like that, you might as well just leave. or things to that effect, which is why he didn't come back for the 50th anniversary, even though Stephen Moffat met with him twice. That part is true, and tried to talk him into it, and he was just like, no.
Wow.
He actually said in an interview, when the 100th anniversary of Doctor Who happens, I will be there, which to me sounded like him saying, when those people I hate are going to be definitely dead, I will come back.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a bummer, man. Because
Adam 12 says he said in an interview recently he didn't like the way people were treated on set.
Well, and I can believe that. I don't know if you know this, Tom, but I've seen the way some productions work, and I've seen the way some people act under pressure. And
well, if you stop taking so many vacations, maybe I understand.
That's why I go on vacation, Tom, is because I don't want to have to think about or deal with any of that stuff.
Absolutely. All right, let's finish up with The Shield, episode 209. This is episode 9 of season 2, and it is a flashback episode, which I thought I wasn't going to like very much. It's not a clip show episode, but they go back to the origins of the barn,
right?
And you get to see, actually, what's amazing is you get to see Michael Chiklis in a tie.
Yeah,
you get to see Vic and Shane out being detectives with their ties on, which is kind of fun to see them out of context. But I'm like, gosh, this seems like going over all the same ground. Like, I already kind of saw the origin in the episode 1.
Am I remembering correctly? Like in that episode is when they're like, the men's room's busted. I'm sure we'll fix it.
Yes.
And then, okay.
Yeah, and and that's where I was going with this. Is there's little things like that where you're like, oh, okay, I get the actual origin story of the men's room getting busted and how that all starts. You realize that I can never remember her name. Danny? Is it Danny?
Yeah, it is Danny.
Danny. Okay, finally. Danny was new to the department. She didn't know Vic before this. You get to find out, most importantly, why Vic Mackey heads down the road that he's on.
Right.
And suddenly, all this stuff that kind of is like, he's a good-hearted bad guy, and it's a trope. Okay, I get it. All of a sudden, you're like, he actually was not a bad guy. He was pure at heart at the beginning.
Right.
And it's interesting that I feel like episode 9, season 2 is a weird place to suddenly go back and tell this story. But remember last week I was talking about how I felt like that was a season finale and where are you going to go from here? Now I'm really curious where they go in the last 3 episodes of the season, because they just took me all the way back to the beginning and said, let's reset. Let's tell you why Vic Mackey is Vic Mackey.
Right.
And I went from, this is kind of interesting, to I don't think I'm really going to like this episode, to all of a sudden, like, I get exactly why I have this episode. I see how he sets up his contacts on the street. And this could have turned out to be a very pat episode, a very much like Vic comes in and busts some heads, and he has to make a compromise of his values, and that's why he's bad. And it could have come off totally wrong. Right. It's very deep. And it's executed in a way where you're like, no, I believe that Vic. I've already believed Vic had good intentions at heart. Now I see that little step he took, like, well, that was easy, wasn't it? Almost too easy. Should be a totally cliche line I'm making fun of. Right. But in the context of this episode, absolutely worked for me.
Well, and that's the thing, right? Is that who you meet at the beginning of the series is a person who's been crafted of years of doing the wrong thing and having it work out for him, right? Or doing the shortcut thing, and it leads to the logical conclusion. Well, what, you got a federal rat in your midst? Just take him out, and then you're done. It's that's great. I'm glad that you're sucked in at this point.
Well, and even a minor point, you get to see Dutch's beginnings. Right, Dutch is coming in cold.
How did
nobody
they represent him? Like,
nobody knows him. He's already being identified as the Rube.
Yeah.
By the senior detective Gannon, who's no longer around in later episodes, right?
Wait, Gannon's the advisor.
He's the guy who broke the big case.
Yeah.
Back in the day, and obviously he's the star that they brought in to give the new department some weight. And Wims, and Dutch keeps like, why have I never heard of you? And she's like, I don't know. I don't know why you haven't. And you get the same whims you've gotten in every episode, but of course it's the first time that Dutch sees it, and he starts to switch from being like starstruck by Gannon to going, actually, I'd like to partner with you, Wims.
Right, because you are interested in solving crimes.
And shows his chops, like as like, we don't have to wait for this guy, even though he's my hero. Yeah. Let's just go solve this on our own.
That's great, man. I feel like you're really in it now. I guess as far as note-taking, at this point we should talk about Orphan Black, but I have not watched another episode since last we spoke. Right. So I'm still only 2 episodes in on that.
Oh, was that you knew,
It's
right?
a bit much.
Okay.
A little spoilery.
All right.
It's a bit much.
Clone Club.
No, and however, over the last week, I got a number of emails and tweets of people saying that they were in the same place that I was, that they kind of liked it, but they weren't really taken by it, and it took like 3 or 4 episodes to get in there. So,
and believe me,
it'll happen.
I'll reiterate too that I would watch an episode and then it'd go 3 weeks, and I'd realize 3 had built up on my DVR, and then I would watch those, and I'd watch them all at once because I'd be like, ooh, yeah, okay, I want to find out what happens in the next one. So
right.
It takes a little bit to get you compelled to come back to it, but it's worth the effort.
Dude, very excited, man.
That is it for Spoilerin' Time, my friends. And even if you're my enemies, it's still the end of Spoilerin'
You're all still
Time.
spoiled.
And that is it. You can find us at cordkillers.com. Thank you, patrons. We'll see you next time.
Our boss. That's you.